Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Okay, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Can do the prayers together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Translation. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author. Okay, you can. Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Okay. We are continuing with our daily reading. We are on Canto 3. And we'll start chapter 21 today. Wow. This is chapter 21, titled Conversation Between Manu and Kardama. We'll read text 1 through 12 today, and our focus verse for today will be text 7. So we'll read the translations through 12 and then come back to text 7. So before... okay, let's start and then we'll figure out.
Vidura said, the line of Swayambhuva Manu was most esteemed. O worshipful sage, I beg you, give me an account of this race, whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse.
Yeah. So, why is Vidura asking about, why is this conversation happening about Swayambhuva Manu? What led to this question? Does anybody remember from the previous chapter? Yes, Drishta.
In the previous chapter we were talking about the sons of Brahma, or not really the sons, but the emanations from Brahma's body, and Swayambhuva Manu is the son of Brahma.
Yes.
And he's also the...
Don't hold the bottom, it basically. Hold it at the top. The bottom is the transmitter.
So like this? Okay. Oh. And so Swayambhuva Manu's the great-grandfather of a few pure devotees.
Yeah, that's one thing. The conversation comes about because Lord Brahma is starting to create. After Earth was submerged in the Garbha ocean, and then he didn't know how to create, then Lord Varahadev came, saved Mother Earth, and then now the Earth is back. And now the process of creation has to start. But especially in the first verse of the previous chapter, this is going back again to Naimisharanya, where who is sitting in Naimisharanya? Along with Shaunaka Rishi, the group of rishis led by Shaunaka Rishi, right? And that's how the conversation starts. And then Shuta Goswami explains that, oh, I've heard this from my spiritual master, Shukadev Goswami, and then goes about narrating for the answers to the questions that the sages asked in the first chapter. So this chapter 20 comes back again to Naimisharanya, where Sri Shaunaka inquired, O Sutta Goswami, after the earth was again situated in its orbit, what did Swayambhuva Manu do to show the path of liberation to persons who were to take birth later on? So Swayambhuva Manu was not an ordinary person. Prabhupada explains in the first verse of this chapter also that Vidura was not really interested in sexual intercourse. He was interested in the great people that were produced by the line of Swayambhuva Manu, who were not ordinary people at all. That's why it's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is not an ordinary scripture, right? And Swayambhuva Manu is such a person that how is he created? Does anybody remember? Brahma is starting to create all these people from his different parts of his body in the previous chapter, right? Does anybody remember the description for Swayambhuva Manu? You read the entire chapter yesterday? Okay, skipped over it. I'll just read that because this is how exalted this personality is, and that's why his lineage is so important, right? Let's see. Okay, this is even later, I think. Yeah. It said, one day the self-born, the first living creature, felt as if the object of his life had been accomplished. That was his status of mind. His object of his life has been accomplished. At that time, he evolved from his mind the Manus, who promote the welfare activities of the universe. This is the personalities, these Manus were created when Lord Brahma thought his object of his life was satisfied. And these Manus are not ordinary people. They're guiding people on the welfare activities of this universe. And the first Manu who was created was Swayambhuva Manu. So this entire Bhagavatam, starting now in the 3rd canto all the way till about the 6th canto, we'll read only about the family of Manu. So let's continue. Text 2.
The two sons of Swayambhuva Manu, Priyavrata and Uttanapada, ruled the world consisting of 7 islands, just according to religious principles.
Yeah, do we still have 7 islands? Which are? The 7 continents basically that we have. No? Okay. Text 3.
O holy Brahman, O sinless one, you have spoken of his daughter known by the name Devahuti as the wife of the sage Kardama, the Lord of created beings.
How many offspring did that great yogi beget through the princess, who was endowed with 8-fold perfection in the yoga principles? O pray tell me this, for I am eager to hear it.
O holy sage, tell me how the worshipful Ruchi and Daksha, the son of Brahma, generated children after securing as their wives the other 2 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu.
Text 6. The great sage Maitreya replied, commanded by Lord Brahma to beget children in the worlds, the worshipful Kardama Muni practiced penance on the bank of the river Saraswati for a period of 10,000 years.
Yeah, before we go to the next verse. So previously, in the previous verses, we have seen the description of the sons and daughters of Swayambhuva Manu. So how many sons did he have? 2. And how many daughters? We just read this. 3. Good guess. So my spiritual master has this memory mnemonic called DAPUP. D-A-P-U-P. Devahuti, Akuti, Prasuti, Uttanapada, Priyavrata. DAPUP. This is the chronology in which we're going to read the Bhagavatam now. So now first would be Devahuti and Kardama Muni. And then we'll see Akuti with Ruchi, Prasuti with Daksha, and then Uttanapada, in whose lineage comes Dhruva Maharaj and Priyavrata. In whose lineage comes? Actually, Bharata Maharaj, Rishabh Dev and Bharat Maharaj, Jada Bharata. So this is the entire sequence of what we're going to read in the Srimad Bhagavatam from now on. Dap up. If you remember this, you can know the next 4 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam just like that. Okay, text 7.
During that period of penance, the sage Kardama, by worship through devotional service and trance, propitiated the personality of Godhead, who is the quick bestower of all blessings upon those who flee to protect him. Flee to him
for protection. Okay, this we'll come back to this verse.
Then, in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas.
So after 10,000 years, Kardama Muni was able to see Krishna face to face.
Kardama Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is free from material contamination, in his eternal form, effulgent like the sun, wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies. The Lord was clad in spotless yellow silk, and his lotus face was fringed with slick dark locks of curly hair.
Adorned with a crown and earrings, he held his characteristic conch, disc, and mace in 3 of his hands, and a white lily in the 4th. He glanced about in a happy, smiling mood, whose sight captivates the heart of all devotees.
Jai.
A golden streak on his chest, the famous Kastuba gem suspended from his neck. He stood in the air with his lotus feet placed on the shoulders of Garuda.
Haribol. Nice, no?
When Kardama Muni actually realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person, he was greatly satisfied because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. He fell on the ground with his head bowed to offer obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, his heart naturally full of love of God. With folded hands, he satisfied the Lord with prayers.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to text 7 and we'll read the Sanskrit. Okay. Tata samadhi yuktena kriya yogena kardama samprapede harim bhaktya prapanna varadhashusam tata samadhi yuktena kriya yogena kardama samprapede harim bhaktya prapanna varadhashusham. Does anybody want to? Tata samadhi yuktena kriya yogena kardama samprapede harim bhaktya varada. Tata samadhi yuktena kriya yogena kardama samprapede harim bhaktya prapanna varadhashusham. Tata samadhi yuktena kriya yogena kardama samprapede harim bhaktya prapanna varadashusham tata samadhi yuktena kriya yogena kardamaha samprapede harim bhaktya prapanna varadashusham. Okay, this is the word for word translation. Tataha, then in that penance, samadhi yuktena, in trance, kriya yogena, in bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga worship, kardhama, the sage kardama, samprapede, served, harim, the personality of Godhead, bhaktya, in devotional service, prapanna, to the surrendered souls, varadha the bestower of all blessings. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the translation. During that period of penance, the sage Kardama, by worship through devotional service and trance, propitiated the personality of Godhead, who is the quick bestower of all blessings upon those who flee to Him for protection. Can somebody read the purport?
Is described here. Kardama Muni practiced mystic yoga meditation for 10,000 years, just to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari. Therefore, whether one practices yoga or speculates and does research to find God, one's efforts must be mixed with the process of devotion. Without devotion, nothing can be perfect. The target of perfection and realization is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that one who constantly engages in Krishna consciousness is the topmost yogi. The personality of Godhead Hari also fulfills the desires of his surrendered devotees. One has to surrender unto the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead Hari or Krishna in order to achieve real success. Devotional service or engagement in Krishna consciousness is a direct method, and all the other methods, although recommended, are indirect. In this age of Kali, the direct method is especially more feasible than the indirect because people are short-living. Their intelligence is poor, and they are poverty-stricken and embarrassed by so many miserable disturbances. Lord Chaitanya, therefore, has given the greatest boon. In this age, one simply has to chant the holy name of God to attain perfection in spiritual life. The words Samprapede Harim mean that in various ways Kardama Muni satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, by his devotional service. Devotional service is also expressed by the word Kriya Yogena. Kardama Muni not only meditated but also engaged in devotional service to attain perfection yoga practice or meditation. One must act in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Remembering is meditation also, but who is to be remembered? One should remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not only must one remember the Supreme Person, one must hear about the activities of the Lord and chant His glories. This information is in the authoritative scriptures. After engaging himself for 10,000 years in performing different types of devotional service, Kardama Muni attained the perfection of meditation. But that is not possible in this age of Kali, wherein it is very difficult to live for as much as 100 years. At the present moment, who will be successful in the rigid performance of many yoga rules and regulations? Moreover, Perfection is attained only by those who are surrendered souls, where there is no mention of the personality of Godhead, where is there surrender, and where there is no meditation upon the personality of Godhead, where is the yoga practice? Unfortunately, people in this age, especially persons who are of a demoniac nature, want to be cheated. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead sends great cheaters who mislead them in the name of yoga and render their lives useless and doomed. In Bhagavad Gita, it is therefore clearly stated in the 16th chapter, verse 17, that rascals are made authority, being puffed up by illegal collected money, perform yoga without following the authoritative books. They are very proud of the money they have plundered from innocent persons who wanted to be cheated.
That's heavy. Okay. So Kardama Muni was doing this penance. Why? In this chapter, what did Lord Brahma ask him to do? He was commanded by Lord Brahma, the Bhagavatam says, to populate the earth. Right? So this was his direct instruction from Lord Brahma. And therefore, what did Kardama Muni do? Oh, let me go find a girl. Was that his attitude? He went and started doing penance for 10,000 years to prepare himself to do it. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam telling us what's the right way to actually create progeny. You know, and the person that Kardama Muni married was also no ordinary person. Who does Kardama Muni marry? Yeah, what was her name? Devahuti. And how is she described? Yeah, she was not an ordinary person also. She was an incredible yogi who was perfected in the eightfold mystic yoga system, the Bhagavatam describes, right? So this was the age of Satya Yuga, where people lived for how many years, 100,000 years. This was how long people's lifetimes were. Therefore, how many years Kardama Muni meditated? 10,000 years, which is probably 10% of his life. So Kardama Muni could do it. In this age of Satya Yuga, it was actually conducive for you to actually go on this process of eightfold yoga system. And you could meditate and then actually achieve perfection. So Krishna describes this in the 6th chapter of the Gita. This eightfold meditation system or the Ashtanga yoga system is not a very easy process of meditation. So does anybody remember what Krishna says, how this yoga should be performed? From the 6th chapter of the Gita? You have to take a mic, or else say and I can repeat.
You've got to go to a secluded place. You've got to sit on kusha grass. You have to control your breathing. Anybody else?
Eyes focused on the tip of the nose and...
in a place that's not too high or too low. You have to sit on a deer skin with kusha grass under it, and then you have to maintain celibacy. It's very important. So the rules that Krishna gives to actually achieve perfection in this yoga process are very difficult to obtain. But when you hear the word yoga in the current times that we live in, what do you think of? Yeah, exercise. Take off your yoga pants and yoga mats and go stretch, go do exercise, right? But that's basically what Prabhupada is saying in the end of this purport, is that that's a cheating form of yoga, where you're not even talking about Krishna, where you're not even saying this is the goal of this yoga practice. All you're saying is this is just exercise. That's not what the yoga process is all about. There is yama and niyama. There are actually rules and regulations before you even start performing this yoga process, right? Then you have asana, how you can sit, and then pranayama, how you can actually control your breathing. Now you're in control of your body and your breathing, and now you can actually start withdrawing your senses. You're in control of your body and mind. And then you can start concentrating your mind and then focusing your mind. And then ultimately, when your focus or concentration meditation has actually attained perfection, you reach what Kardama Muni has actually achieved, which is basically seeing Krishna face to face. Every single yoga process can actually attain perfection. But for it to attain perfection, what does Prabhupada say is needed in all the yoga processes? What is very essential? Different yoga processes Krishna gives in the Gita, right? You have the Karma Yoga, you have the Jnana Yoga, you have the Jnana Yoga. But for all of this to succeed, what is necessary? Devotion. Bhakti. Some part of bhakti should necessarily be there for all the other yoga processes to succeed. So you have how many chapters in the Gita? 18 chapters. The first 6 chapters focus on which aspect? Karma Yoga, right? And then the last 6 chapters focus on which aspect? Jnana Yoga. And the middle 6 chapters? Bhakti Yoga. So the Acharyas say Bhakti Yoga is placed right in the middle because it can, both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga can actually associate with Bhakti Yoga for it to attain perfection. Without Bhakti, without some sort of devotion in the practice of the yoga system, you can never attain perfection. Even doing, and Prabhupada here translates Kriya Yoga. That's what the process that Kardama Muni was doing, right? Kriya Yogena Kardama, the verse says. Kriya Yoga, Prabhupada translates it as what? Devotional service. But Kriya Yoga is a separate process as far as I understand. But why is Prabhupada translating it as Bhakti? You will see Prabhupada do this constantly, even in his Gita. When there is karma, Prabhupada will translate it as devotional service. When there is Jnana Yoga also, Prabhupada will translate. When there is yoga, Prabhupada will translate it as devotional service. Why is Prabhupada doing it? You have to hold the mic.
Until it's for the pleasure of Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay. What else? It's not yoga unless it's connected with Krishna itself. Okay. But you have different names for different things that Krishna says. But why is Prabhupada actually translating it as bhakti? Krishna is saying the different yogas by different names, isn't it? Any? Yeah. So ultimately, the fruit of all these processes of yoga system is bhakti. So when you perform any sort of this yoga process, the perfection of this yoga process is bhakti yoga. That's what Prabhupada is mentioning here. Even through the process of Kriya Yoga, what was Kardama Muni doing? The verse says, Samprapede Harim Bhaktya. He was actually serving the Lord. This is the actual success of any yoga system. You have this yoga ladder that Krishna describes in the Gita, right? So you start with Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means you're really attached to the activities that you're performing. But you recognize Krishna's supremacy, but you're still very attached to the activities. Therefore, you connect with Krishna through karma. But ultimately, the perfection of Karma Yoga is what? Bhakti. That's why Prabhupada will translate Karma Yoga as Bhakti Yoga. Right? And therefore, it's the same thing. If you're very attached to jnana, and then therefore, but you're accepting Krishna as somebody who's supreme, right? That's how the bhakti is involved. That's how the jnana process actually becomes successful. Is that through that, the conclusion that you will arrive at is that Krishna is a supreme person, and therefore I have to serve Krishna. So dhyana yoga, you're very attached to meditation. This is how you want to unite with Krishna. Therefore, you're really following this process for 10,000 years. But yet, you've recognized that Krishna is the Supreme. And ultimately, you start performing devotional service to Him. This is what Kardama Muni was doing. He was not just meditating on something that's a white light or some waterfall or something like that. He was meditating on Krishna himself. And therefore, Krishna was personally present in front of him when he attained perfection in his yoga process, which ultimately is Bhakti Yoga, where you are actually serving Krishna. This is the entire purpose of all yoga systems, is that you come to this process of Bhakti Yoga. But all these processes, Prabhupada says, are indirect processes, right? You have to start from the lowest rung, go step by step by step by step, without falling or deviating, because every single yoga system has its pitfall. So what is the pitfall with Karma Yoga itself in the beginning stages? Why are you doing Karma Yoga?
Results.
Because you want something. right? I want something, but I recognize Krishna's supremacy. Therefore, I'll do it within the framework of what Krishna is asking me to do. I'll go to the supermarket. I want something. I'll pay the money to get it instead of stealing it. That's basically what karma yoga is. I'm recognizing there is some authority. What is the problem with just doing karma yoga without progressing further? What's the pitfall? Yes, Jai Hari Prabhu.
I can only guess is because we're doing it for ourselves and not for Krishna. So there's like still it's mixed with like it's not pure love.
Yes. So what happens as a result? Can you pass the mic to?
Repentance of birth and death, like constant. You're never going to be able to relieve from the material world because you're always doing karma and gaining. Like,
actually, in the long run, you can. It's a very slow process because you're accepting Krishna's authority. Ultimately, you will come to this point where you recognize that everything that you're asking for yourself is not really satisfying, and then you start asking, what's the real thing to do? That's why karma activities end up in knowledge. Krishna says in the Bhakti, you know. But
You
okay.
keep getting distracted.
You
keep getting distracted.
You keep getting distracted. How?
Like because you're like it's like a carrot being swung in front of you. Like and you start to like waver back to the enjoyment of the fruits instead of the devotional service. So you keep on swaying towards your enjoyment instead of Krishna's enjoyment.
Yes, that's essentially it. Is that the focus is still my enjoyment. Therefore, at some point, I can break away from the rules and regulations that are given to me. Right? I'm so attached to getting what I really need to get. Therefore, I will not follow what Krishna is asking me to do. You can stray away from the actual path that the karma yoga's rules and regulations ask you to do. That's the problem, right? Okay, you've succeeded in karma, and then finally you've realized that all these things that I've been asking for myself is actually not satisfying me. And therefore you come to this point of questioning, like, why am I here? Why am I doing everything that I'm doing? I'm asking something for myself, but it's not really satisfying me, right? You come to this position of questioning, which means you've succeeded from that ladder and gone to the next ladder where you're looking for knowledge, right? It's not just about getting things anymore, but you really want to know why you're getting this, and why do you really require this, right? Okay, this is jnana, this starting of the jnana platform, and then you're starting to study and acquire knowledge and so many things like that. And then if you succeed, you can actually figure out that you are the spirit soul, and then you are the servant of Krishna, and therefore the success of the Jnana Yoga platform is I have to perform devotional service. But there is a pitfall in the Jnana Yoga process itself, which is what? What happens? Pride. For somebody who has so much knowledge, the one that would think that quality that easily comes is pride. And therefore the Jnanis think they're so proud of them. They're so proud of themselves, and ultimately they think they're God. They themselves are God. They try to become one with God, or they think they are God itself. This is the biggest pitfall of jnana. For every yoga ladder that Krishna is describing, the successful path means you're constantly going forward and going towards bhakti or devotional service to the Lord. But the pitfall means it takes you in a completely different direction. Okay, you've attained the knowledge. Atato Brahma Jignasa, the Vedanta Sutra says, right? Okay, you've inquired about the Supreme. You've inquired about who you are, and you finally figured out this is who I am, and therefore you're starting to meditate on the Lord through the Ashtanga Yoga process, or that you can meditate for 10,000 years, and ultimately you come to this position of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where you can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead like Kardama Muni face to face. What is the pitfall of Dhyana Yoga, or these eightfold meditational process? What is the pitfall? If you succeed, you see Krishna face to face, but yes?
You might get distracted by the results of your yoga practice.
Which are?
Mystic siddhis which come.
Yeah, when you're performing these incredible austerities, you're going to get these incredible mystic powers. And once you start getting a taste of it, I still remember this very vividly, this book called The Journey Home by Radhanath Maharaj. He is there in the Himalayas with all these yogis. These yogis are really incredible practitioners of these mystic yoga system, and they have these incredible powers that they have. And I remember one yogi who can just bend an iron rod with his eye. He can just hold an iron rod and then push the iron rod and bend the iron rod. There is this yogi who can actually create a mountain of ashes or something like that. These parts are very vivid. I probably read this book 15 years back or something. You had a question? Okay. But you could see that these yogis who have been trying really hard to perform these mystic yoga system got derailed. They got so enamored by the powers, mystic powers that they got, they forgot what their actual purpose of performing this mystic yoga practice was. But Kardama Muni could do it. He could do this mystic yoga practice for 10,000 years. You need 10,000 years for you to perfect this. Valmiki, you know who Valmiki is? Yeah, Valmiki was the author of Ramayana. It is said that he practiced yoga for 40,000 years to attain perfection. Kardama Muni practiced it for 10,000 years to attain perfection. Prabhupada says we don't even have 100 years in the times that we live in, right? So this yoga process is a valid yoga process. Yes, if you do it perfectly, it will take you to perfection, but it's a very indirect way of taking you to Krishna. And we don't have the time that this yoga process requires for us to achieve perfection. Therefore, the process that is mentioned for the times that we live in is what? Chanting. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nameva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, 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 Gatiraneta. Is there any other way? No, there is no other way. Is there any other way? No, there is no other way. Is there any other way at all? No, there is no other way. Other than chanting the holy names of the Lord. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nameva Kevalam. Only that can deliver us in the times that we live in. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy on us, right? He didn't see who was qualified. In the processes that we've been seeing, you need some qualification to do this yoga processes. Not anybody can just go and do this and attain perfection. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened this up for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, which country you come from, which language you speak, which gender you are from, what is the social status that you have. No problems at all. This chanting of the holy names of the Lord can be done by everybody, irrespective of any social circumstance that they are from. Okay, it can be done by everybody, and it can be done by it can be done at any time. There is no hard and fast rule that you have to do it only at this time. We'll see in the 4th canto of how Dhruva Maharaj actually performed this yoga system and saw Krishna face to face in how many days, 6 months. 6 months. And you'll see how many rules and regulations were there for him to do that process. And like Krishna describes in the Gita. The chanting of the holy name is very simple. Prabhupada says it's very, very simple process. It's available to everybody, and that's the only process that we can perform in the times that we live in. So many distractions we have. We don't have the focus, the mental capability to focus for 10,000 years. But ultimately, through chanting, we have to come to this point of remembrance that Kardama Muni came to. Right? That's the ultimate goal. Why? Because Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. That Krishna says, at the time of your death, whatever you remember, smaran bhava, and whatever bhava that you have, whatever attitude that you have, that's what is going to decide where your next destination is. So remembrance is actually our goal of performing devotional service. When we are chanting, we are trying to get to this point where this chanting can actually take us to remembrance of Krishna. So how is this process done? How can we actually attain remembrance of Krishna? Because that's our goal, right? Krishna consciousness. What does it mean? We are always conscious of Krishna. We are always remembering Krishna. At every second of our lives, we can remember Krishna. But for us to do it, where do we start? Hearing. That's where everything starts, right? This famous verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that Prahlad Maharaj says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Harshanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmani Vedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktishche Navalakshanam. Prahlad Maharaj says. Do you know to what question that Prahlad Maharaj is giving this answer? No, you have to.
He's teaching his classmates at school.
No. No, he's not teaching his teachers or his classmates. Yeah. His dad asks him. What does his dad ask him? Huh? What did you learn in the school? Prahlad has been going to the school. Hiranyakashipu sent him, and he has this Sanda and Amarka, who are his teachers. And they've brought Prahlad in front of Hiranyakashipu. And it's so wonderful, the description in Srimad Bhagavatam, because Hiranyakashipu had so much love for Prahlad at that point. He's calling his son and putting him on his lap and smelling his forehead. Tears are gliding down from his face, and it says it's making Prahlad's face moist. Srimad Bhagavatam says that was Hiranyakashipu's mood when he was holding his son Prahlad. And then he was very dearly asking him, like any parent would ask, hey Prahlad, you went to the school. What's the best kind of knowledge that you've learned? What's the best thing that you've learned? And to which Prahlad answers, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam. He says these are the 9 processes of devotional service. And one who is actually performing this devotional service is the most knowledgeable of all, because they know the complete knowledge that doing this is how you attain perfection. And then at that point, we'll read in the 7th canto what Hiranyakashipu's reaction was. He was very, very disappointed with his teachers actually to start with. Like, what have you taught my son? But the starting process is Shravanam. So first we start hearing. First we have to know who Krishna is, so that we can remember who Krishna is. We hear about Krishna's names. When we chant Krishna's holy names, we hear attentively. That's how we can actually start remembering Krishna, through chanting. Prabhupada says here also that actually in the Nectar of Instruction he says in text 3, devotional service is a matter of practical activity. Prabhupada says devotional service means it's not just sitting and imagining something, or it's not a process of sentimental imagination or speculative ecstasy, something like that. Prabhupada says it's not that you're speculating something and saying, oh, it's so amazing. It's not that you're sentimental about it and deriving ecstasy. It's a matter of practical activity. It's a matter of practical service. We serve Krishna. We serve Krishna through hearing, and then slowly when we hear, what happens? You have to say it out loud. I'm not able to hear it. When you start hearing, then you want to start chanting. You're hearing about this wonderful person, therefore you want to talk about this wonderful person that you've been hearing about, right? Shravanam naturally transitions into Kirtanam, and then Kirtanam naturally transitions into Smaranam. And Smaranam is not thinking about anybody, remembering about anybody. Prabhupada says in this purport, who are we remembering? Krishna. Krishna in very specific ways. You look at Srimad Bhagavatam, when Krishna is being remembered, how is Krishna being remembered? Does somebody just say, oh, Krishna is so beautiful? Do they stop with that? How do they remember Krishna? Yeah, they say prayers, but their remembrance, I'm talking about remembrance, right? They're remembering Krishna and praying. How is their remembrance? Yes, Jai Hari Prabhu. It is through its relationship, but the point I'm getting from the verses that we're reading also is that remembrance of Krishna is very specific. The devotees know what kind of earrings that Krishna is wearing. He wears a shark-shaped earrings, right? What kind of lips Krishna has? He has a lotus eyes and lotus lips. What's the color of Krishna's lips? It's bimba color, right? The description and remembrance of Krishna is not that, oh, he's so great, oh, he's so beautiful. But the remembrance of Krishna is so specific that they're able to remember every single detail about Krishna. Even here, when Kardama Muni saw Krishna, the Bhagavatam just doesn't describe, oh, Krishna appeared in front of Kardama Muni. How does the Bhagavatam describe Krishna when he appeared in front of Kardama Muni? He has 4 arms and each hand what Krishna was having, right? What color dhoti Krishna was wearing? It says he was wearing a yellow dhoti when he came in front of Kardama Muni. What kind of flower garland was Krishna wearing? White lotuses and lily, right? White lily. So the description that we see of remembrance of Krishna is very specific. We have read this in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 1st canto. We see an example of an exalted devotee remembering Krishna when he's leaving his body. Do you remember who? Bhishma Dev. How is his remembrance of Krishna? Is it just fighting? You have to hold the mic before you answer. So
he sees Krishna running at him.
He sees Krishna running at him. He's seeing so many different things. He's seeing Krishna's chadar fall when Krishna is running at him. He's seeing Krishna hold the the wheel of the chariot
from his arrows.
Yeah, he sees Krishna's marks
like
from his arrows.
Kisses.
Right? Correct.
Or bites. The bites of a lover.
Which felt like bites of a lover, the Bhagavatam describes, although this was it. But ultimately, this is the rasa that Bhishma Dev had with Krishna, right? He was this chivalrous mood that he had with Krishna, the relationship. But ultimately, when he was leaving his body, Bhishma Dev was remembering Krishna as Partha Sarathi, the chariot driver of Arjuna. And there he could actually see Krishna with his drops of sweat like pearls on his face, with dust of the war field applied on the face of Krishna. He actually remembers which hand Krishna was holding the reins and which hand Krishna was holding the whip. You know, the remembrance that the devotees have of Krishna are very specific and very detailed. This is where we have to aspire to get to. It's not just remembrance of Krishna. Oh, Krishna is beautiful. No, when we come and take darshan of Kalachandji, how much of Kalachandji are we able to remember? Yeah? Probably the color of his dress. The devotees take so much pains to dress Kalachandji in so many different ways. The pain that they do, the earrings that they give Kalachandji, the turban cloths that they have, what kind of peacock feather that they keep for Krishna, what kind of garlands that the devotees make for Krishna. So this is a process. We have to come to this point, but this all starts from Shravanam. Initially, our process of Shravanam is very disturbed. This is the Nectar of Instruction, chapter, text 8. Prabhupada paraphrases Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he takes us through this entire process of Shravanam that goes all the way till Samadhi, where we are completely in remembrance of Krishna. Initially, how is our hearing? Can we hear continuously? No. Initially, our hearing is very interrupted, right? But when we continue hearing, we come to a point where our hearing is actually constant. We get attached to this process of hearing even. And when we're attached to this process of hearing is when we can actually start remembering. And even when we start to remember Krishna, can we remember everything about Krishna in the beginning stages? No. Our remembrance is actually not complete, right? We remember something, but then we're not really remembering. And then when we continue to try this process of remembrance, then we can actually start remembering things very clearly. And when we start remembering things, we can actually get into this process of absorption. Unless we get into this process of absorption, where are we going to attain perfection? And even this absorption is interrupted, right? I can absorb myself in chanting for some time, and then it's interrupted again. I try again. But once this absorption matures, then we can actually come to this point of constant remembrance of Krishna. So the exact thing that we get from the Kriya Yoga process, we can get from Bhakti also, which is a direct process that Krishna says. And this is the process for the times that we live in. So, but we have to do it intentionally. When we are chanting, we do intentionally. When we are serving, we serve intentionally. Then we can actually come to this point of remembrance and achieve perfection. Yeah? So, any questions, comments?
One time I was sitting here taking darshan, and this little girl comes in from the school, and she looked at Kalachandji and she said, "Wow, they haven't wore this outfit in a long time."
Wow.
And I was like, I can't remember what they wore yesterday. And this little girl was like, knowing they haven't worn, so the detail of our devotional service, like you're mentioning, is I was really appreciating that point when I could hear it in her.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to mention, I really like Srila Prabhupada's point here that these different processes, karma yoga, dhyana yoga, and these different yogas, they end in devotional service.
Correct.
And bhakti starts with devotional service.
Correct.
I feel like it's like a life hack. Like Srila Prabhupada give us this like this ultimate life hack that we can just
exactly
boom, just jump right there into it.
Exactly.
Srila Prabhupada. Wow.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Actually, this verse, we could talk so much about this verse. There is this word called prapannam. Prapanna, varadhashusham. Prapanna means what, Surrender. This is basically Krishna's instruction, you know. He's given us so many different kinds of yoga systems, but in the end, what does Krishna say? Sarva dharman paridyacha mamekam sharanam vraja. Sharanam, sharanagati and prapanna are similar words. They mean the same thing. Ultimately, this is Krishna's instruction, you know. Okay, Arjuna, you can go through all these processes, but ultimately what is beneficial for you is do what I'm asking you to do. Surrender to Krishna. This is what Prabhupada is saying. Surrendering to Krishna is the actual process that Krishna is asking us to do. And that's what Prabhupada emphasizes in every single page. Yes, Prabhu? Can you get the mic?
Hare Krishna. When you mentioned Kriya Yoga, normally I heard Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Dhyana, Karma, Jnana Yoga, right? What is Kriya Yoga? Is it mentioned in Bhagavad Gita?
Prabhupada mentions here that Kriya Yoga is devotional service. And ultimately Kriya Yoga is a separate form of yoga system, which I think includes the Ashtanga Yoga system. I'm not very sure of it, but from the description of what Kardama Muni has been doing, right? He's been performing the eightfold meditational service for the system for 10,000 years. So that's what I think, but I'm not very sure of what that exact process is.
Kriya Yoga is very famous in India, but I never heard Kriya Yoga from Bhagavad Gita. So that's what I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more questions or comments? Okay, we should stop here then. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindubhye vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.